all the bad and the hurt. I know you tried so hard. I know you've done your part. It's not fair. You did your time. How much longer will you suffer in this life? But don't give up. Just hold on tight. It'll be alright. All your life you've tried to be a good man inside. Did everything that you thought you should. Didn't seem to do you any good. I know you've tried so hard.
I want to share just a few things that I would recommend you look at if you're looking to set up your plow truck or a truck for pushing snow. I got the squints going. It's so bright. It's been a few rough days. We've probably gotten 30, 34, 36 inches in the last 3 or 4 days, and it feels like it's just been non-stop pushing snow, trying to catch up with it. In fact, I had a few places that I figured, oh, it'll be no problem, and I let them go while I was running around doing other driveways and other roads and things. And by the time I got back there, there was 26, 28 inches, and I couldn't push it, couldn't get it out of the way. So it took a lot of work to get those roads pushed out finally. Gosh, it's bright out here. So the where do I start? I think the biggest thing that I've learned about the truck is that, number one, you want to have good visibility to the rear. And that good visibility to the rear has been great in the Ford because I can just look over my shoulder out the back window and reverse really quick. I'm finding that I spend as much time in reverse as I do in drive, and with that I wish that I had lights, as much light behind me as I did in front of me. So lights, you just can't have enough light, is number one. Number two is a powder guard across the top of your plow. Having that flap over the plow to keep all of the fine snow and powder and mist that seems to blow over the plow and then up onto your windshield, and plugs up your lights, it plugs up your windshield, and you can't see anything. So one of those would be number two, is that flap that hangs down over the front of the plow that will help minimize all of that powder and mist and fine little snow that seems to blow up over the front and plug up the lights in the windshield. I think if you're setting up a plow truck, you cannot overemphasize suspension. It's amazing with the plow out on the front of the truck, and even more so once that plow fills up with snow, that when I try and lift that plow up, that the whole front of the truck wants to sit down on the ground. So I think 1 ton or a 3500 at a minimum, 2500 maybe, and if you could add some kind of stiffer springs or something up front, it would be money well spent. The suspension in the Ford is about shot. The whole front, it's gonna have to be rebuilt. I'd really like a solid front axle. This has some funky little front suspension here that I'm not impressed with at all. but it's a great truck. I mean, I'm nitpicking at this point. This has been an all right plow, and I think if all I was doing was my own property, but the problem is when it starts snowing and it doesn't stop snowing for 24 hours, you can't keep up with your own stuff, and your neighbor and their neighbor and the people down the road, even with everybody working on it, you can't keep up with it. So you end up doing a lot more for your neighbors, for down the road. I mean, here it is. It snowed last night. We got about 3 or 4 inches. It's kind of cleared up, and I'm still out plowing trying to catch up from the last 48 hours or so. So I think if you're going to build a truck, build it for a commercial application. Even if you're only planning on using it for your own personal use, you'll be a lot happier. So heavy front suspension would be number 3. Then I want to talk about setup. I can't believe how many people, as I was out on the roads and traveling around and back and forth, were stuck, or even I got stuck. And having chains and tow straps and rigging to get unstuck saved my bacon and helped me pull out other people several different times. So make sure that you're well equipped, and I would throw into that ice scrapers. I would throw in a broom, a couple of different shovels, shovel for ice, a shovel for some kind of a scoop shovel where you can move a lot of light snow quickly, and make sure you can dig yourself out, help somebody else out, get them pulled out, and even if that's just down at the end of your driveway, just 1,000 feet away from your house, it's amazing what a pain in the butt it is to think, oh gosh, I got to walk back up to the house, get a shovel, find a chain, get a tow strap, whatever it might be. You're going to be a lot happier if that is just in the truck, in a box, and you can throw the lid off and get to that stuff and pull somebody out, or get yourself hooked up so when somebody comes along they can pull you out without having to mess around a whole bunch. So number 4 would be setup. Make sure you've got that stuff that you need. It's funny, I would step out the front door at 4 o'clock in the morning and think I'm going to go push snow for a couple of hours, and then I'll come home and have breakfast, and find that I was still out running around at lunchtime or mid-afternoon, and wishing that I had thrown something in the truck. So now I'm always carrying something with me, whether it's taking a lunch with me, an apple, a banana, whatever, and throwing that in the truck. So part of your kit, whatever that might be, is be prepared, because once you step off, it may be a long time before you actually get back to the house, depending on what you come across out there. When it's snowing and it's nasty, you never know what's going to happen. So I would have a whole box, and even if you throw in a few granola bars and a couple of bottles of water, and try and wrap those bottles of water up in your extra gloves or an extra hat or an extra jacket, or coveralls, or whatever you're going to take with you, it would pay off down the road when you've been out fighting the snow, or you're stuck on the road for a couple of hours somewhere. You're going to be grateful you got those granola bars and extra clothes that you can change into. There was a couple of times where my feet were soaked from shoveling and being out in the snow, and I wished I had a pair of socks. So those types of things in your kit. Where are we? Is that number 5? Number 4? I forgot. So get kitted up. Pretend like you're headed off to war and you're not going to be back for a while, even if that's just going down your own driveway. You'll be glad you did. Fuel is important. I thought, I'll just stop in and get fuel. Well, by the time I plowed some roads and pulled some people out, I was on empty and worried about running out of gas before I could get to the fuel stop. So keep your fuel above half. I think if you pretend that half is empty and keep it there all the time, and then carry fuel with you. Gosh dang it. Excuse me. Yellow. Unbelievable. So fuel, super important. It would not hurt to carry an extra 5 or 10 gallons. You may come across somebody who is stuck in a ditch, who is also close to empty, and they've been sitting there for an hour idling, trying to keep the car warm. That would be a great thing to have in the back of your truck. I've been carrying diesel and gas, and I'm glad that I had both. So what is that? Number 6, fuel. Make sure your fuel's topped off and that you're carrying a little extra to help out, because it's crazy just down the road. Not on my safari across this 3,000 mile journey. Just inside this little radius. When the snowstorm rolls in, it's crazy how right at the end of your driveway there's people stuck in the snow and people running out of gas and all of this stuff that you need. So I think that has been surprising to me, that even a little expedition to clear the driveway turns into this wild and crazy time where you've pulled out 3 cars and gotten yourself unstuck and almost ran out of gas, and on and on and on, and all that happened within a quarter mile of your house. So having everything in the truck where it's ready to go, you'll be really glad that you're set up. So having the toolbox in the back has been great. Having the fuel tank in the back has been great. What is that, 6? Okay, fuel. So moving on, number 7. I think the thing that has really surprised me is the truck is great, and the front is weighted and heavy, and I get great traction on my front tires. But with the truck, my back tires, because there's not a lot of weight in the back, are always spinning. So ballast would be a good thing. Now, if I was really smart, I would fill that up with sand, pea gravel, whatever that might be. That sand or pea gravel could be in bags or in buckets or whatever. And that way, when I get down to the mailbox and I push the snow out of the way, I could sprinkle out some pea gravel or some sand, and that way when folks are getting out of their car and stepping up to the mailbox, it's not slippery and icy, and there's not a chance that somebody's going to slip there in front of the mailbox and fall down. Because it's amazing, once that blade goes across that snow and that ice, it is just smooth and really slippery. So I was thinking, man, if I had some way that I could carry those 30-pound or 50-pound sacks of pea gravel, those are a little expensive, but it would give me ballast or weight in the back of the truck, and then I could break one out every so often and sprinkle that around the mailbox or in front of the door or on a walkway or wherever I might be to help with the ice. Salt would be another good one, and maybe just 5-gallon buckets full of salt, or if I had 8 or 10 5-gallon buckets back there with lids on them full of sand and gravel and salt, then I could pick and choose, and that would give me weight in the back of the truck for whatever I come across. So that was something that kind of hit me, that, man, if I had that would be great. It's amazing how these storms affect a lot of people. Some older folks that we plowed snow for through our church, there was several older widows that needed help, and we went over and pushed snow and shoveled walkways, and there was a lot to consider, especially when you show up to a property you've never seen the property, and now it's got 2 foot of snow on it, and you don't know what's buried underneath that snow. There's a lot of surprises. So walk it first, try and get a hold of the homeowner first, figure out where they've got their landscape lights or yard decorations and those types of things. I was pushing snow along the edge here, and all of a sudden this mailbox came tumbling up to the top, and I thought, what the heck, where did that mailbox come from? But they had their mailbox on an old tire, and the tire was full of concrete, and the street guys had come by, the city guys had come by and pushed the snow up, and it had covered it. And then when I was coming along pushing, I hit that tire and it spun it up. So, I mean, it was great that they had it on the tire and it was movable and it didn't break it off or whatever, but I wish I would have known, or that the homeowner would have said, hey, there's a mailbox out there hiding somewhere, that I wouldn't have been as aggressive of pushing into that pile. So little things like that would be good. Walk the property, talk to the people first, get a feel for what's out there. You don't want to spend time pushing snow somewhere where it's unwanted. You don't want to have a neighbor call back and say, hey, you've buried my gas meter, or you whatever it might be. Hey, I've got to clear that space out. I've got a guy coming to deliver, oil or propane, or who knows. But talk to people, whatever the scenario might be. You don't want to end up pushing snow somewhere that it's unwanted, because having to go back and clean it out for whatever reason, that's not a good time. We had a situation where showed up to a lady's house, and the neighbor's house is really close, and the neighbor has these basement windows that are right up at the top of the foundation. And with the snow and the wind, the snow had blown into these windows, and the windows are right at the ground level. And so you couldn't see them, you didn't know they were there, and so you figured, hey, I'll just put some snow right along there and no problem. Well, it's a problem when that snow melts and there's going to be all sorts of water. You don't want that water running down into that basement. So yes, it's kind of a bad design. Nobody would do that nowadays. They would put in window wells or figure out a way to better waterproof around those windows. But in these older homes, there's all sorts of surprises. So now that we know that, if I was ever to go back over there for the next snowstorm, I would definitely wouldn't push snow along that edge. I would try and clean that out better. But again, lots of surprises hiding underneath the snow. You never know what you're going to find. So what is that? 8, 6, 7 is sand and gravel. 8 is walk the property with people if you've never been there before. And I think that kind of goes both ways. If you're a homeowner and you know snow is coming, clean up all your junk. Clean up all your yard art. Clean up the rocks along the edge of the driveway. All of that stupid garbage that's so cutesy in the summertime. Pick up all your pink flamingos and put that crap in the shed, because when it starts snowing and you're trying to push snow, it's all going to get pushed around and broken. And yeah, so a rock gets pushed out of the way. It might scar up the yard or whatever, but you can put it back. It would just be easier if it wasn't there at all. So if you live in a place where you know there's going to be snow, you're a homeowner, clean up your crap. It makes it a lot easier for guys that want to come over and help push some snow and make your life easier if we don't have to worry about destroying your yard or breaking something while trying to help you out. So what is that? 7 is sand and gravel. 8 is walk the property, which includes homeowners cleaning up their stuff. 9. I guess let's talk about setting up a truck. Here's some things. Like I said, suspension, especially front suspension, needs to be reinforced, stiffened up. It needs to be heavy duty, 1 ton on the front, because of the additional weight of the plow and the snow on that plow. But let's talk about 4-wheel drive and tires for a minute. Having 4-wheel drive at a minimum, but going the extra mile would be some kind of air locker. When you could go from 4-wheel drive is 1 tire in the front spinning, 1 in the rear, usually opposite sides. If you could lock up your axles with an air locker, and if that's the rear, then you could have both rears and 1 in the front spinning. That would give you a lot better traction. Now, if you could go air locker in the rear and air locker in the front, and you had all 4 spinning, that'd be great, but it makes it really hard to turn those wheels when it's all locked up, and especially they'll start hopping as you're turning corners, and so that might be a little bit of a problem. But there's so much spin and play out here on the ice. If you got out and you were pushing, getting all 4 tires spinning would be awesome. Then you talk about tires. You want aggressive tires and studs. Man, there's so many times I wish I had studded tires. A lot of places won't let you run studded tires because those studs tear up the asphalt. But they tear up asphalt because they're aggressive, and you want that aggression when it comes to ice and snow. Now, obviously, the old reliable chains. Throwing chains on, yes, but it's a pain in the butt. And there's a lot of times just having the studs in your tires would get the job done without having to get out and chain the thing up, and then get out, take the chains off, and drive across town. So that's a consideration. If you're running around plowing in town, out of town, wherever, chains are going to be a little frustrating for you. But you should definitely have a set of chains. Having a set of chains, being able to throw them on, got me unstuck a couple of different times. I might not have gotten stuck if I had them on in the first place, but at least they saved my bacon and got me unstuck as part of that kit. So, good aggressive tires, good tread, studs, and then chains. And then if you can get those tires spinning with four-wheel drive, and then locking air lockers, or even at the extreme of welding the spider gears in the rear differential, so that you've got really good traction in that plow truck. It's interesting that I just thought, oh, you put on a plow and you go push the snow out of the way, but there's so much to it in fighting the snow, especially when it decides to really dump and you're going to get a whole bunch all at once. I think that one of the, what does that make us? So I think we're number 9 is four-wheel drive, good traction, good tires, studs, chains. So that's number 9. Okay, so I think that there is so much more to plowing snow. I found in a lot of situations that having a snowblower in the back of the truck and being able to clear up spots that I couldn't get to with the plow was really nice. I could snow blow areas in front of garages and throw that snow out, and then once it was out, then I could push it out of the way. But that's something to consider if you're building a house in Montana, Idaho, wherever you might get a lot of snow, is you really want to think about, how can I get the truck in and push across the front of my garage doors. You want to be able to plow across the front of those doors and push that snow away, but that's going to take a little planning back in the architectural stage to make sure that you set up your entry, your roads, your garage sticks out, you can drive past the garage and remove that snow. It would save you hours and hours of snow removal and snow blowing and shoveling if you can just get the truck in there and push that snow away from the front of the garage and away from the house in a lot of places. So think about that. Maybe that's number 10 is, I have been surprised how poor some of the designs are on some of these houses that I've been pushing snow at. With a little planning, or bringing the garage out a little further, or putting their entryway on the other side, would have made life a lot easier and saved a lot of money in snow plowing and snow removal with a little bit better design up front. So consider that if you're thinking about building a house or buying a house in this neck of the woods, that, okay, we've got to deal with snow. If 2 foot falls overnight, can we hop in the plow truck and push that away from the front of the garage doors? And the idea of back dragging with the plow, it works a little if the snow's right, but if it's wet and heavy, you're not back dragging anything. If it's light and fluffy, maybe back drag and pull it away from the doors. But if you can just push past and windrow that snow away from those doors, that's going to make your life a lot easier. So that's kind of my 10 things that I've picked up this week in fighting snow over the last 3 or 4 days with this big storm. Is that just a few simple things will set you up, make your life a lot easier. But the plow truck needs to be kind of its own safari vehicle, its own expedition vehicle. And when you step out the door every morning, whether it's a couple of inches on the driveway or you've got 14 inches on the driveway, you've got to be ready for that quarter-mile expedition. You never know what you're going to come up against. So I'd love to get some feedback. That's the think tank that we have here on the channel, and all of you folks that share ideas and give input. I absolutely love it, positive or negative. There's a couple of you out there that share, and I wonder who raised you and where you come up with some of these ideas. And there's others that I'm just like, that is brilliant, that is genius, and I'm so glad that you post that information. And I get to learn, and hopefully I'm sharing something of value, and you're getting to learn. So put your comments down below. We'd love to hear from you and your experience and what works for you. Because then we can all get smarter together, and it'll make our lives a lot easier. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.
Feeling so small, watch the clock ticking off the wall, but tonight